Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot, before we even start this feature conversation, I forgot that we are, for the first time, recording Live in a Rock show literally live.
That's true.
So I apologize to anyone who's been listening to the live feed, but I forgot to mention that we were going to stop broadcasting and then start a new broadcast for part 2 of episode 22, starting with the feature conversation. So I apologize. For those of you who have found us, welcome back.
Yeah.
For those of you who weren't listening live, well, just enjoy this side of the show.
Yes, indeed. So we're now here into our feature conversation, and we decided we were going to explore the idea of major and minor goals, and especially relate that to where we are in our individual journeys when we're not recording Live in Rock and we're in our own separate locations working on different aspirations. Where are we along this road?
Yes.
And I'm right up top just going to say, like, what have you accomplished that we can celebrate? And
celebrations.
Yeah.
To be honest, I have so many things I'd like to. I'm excited about because I've made a lot of progress.
Okay.
Over the last 2 weeks. So to give context again for new listeners, my identity and my main creative pursuit right now is a blog,
right?
Called Space Love Superheroes. A blog about pretty much my love and passion for all things fantasy, sci-fi, and romance within those genres. And superheroes, sorry, of course.
Okay.
So, celebrations. One thing I'm excited about is that the last week I got to finally post my first fictional piece on the blog. So the first month or two, I've been doing just regular articles and commentaries, opinion pieces. But I posted my first actual fictional short story piece a couple weeks ago.
Hold on. You published a short fiction story?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the purpose of the blog is so that I can do both. I speak about my passion for existing, stuff like the Batman versus Superman movie that just came out, or what other piece of, entertainment that I'm feeling in that genre.
Okay.
But the other part of the blog is posting my actual original fiction and stories. So I posted one last week called Black in the Days. I actually breaking it up into multiple posts. I posted part 1 and part 2 over the last 2 weeks. And I actually got someone to like it as well, directly from the WordPress blog, which is where my blog is hosted on WordPress.
So, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but, we're recording here in the home studio.
Yes.
And obviously, being at home, some strange things happen. My wife just came in here asking me for something, and so I was a little bit distracted. I apologize.
No worries. It happens.
Yeah. So aside from that, I did hear that you published the fiction, short story fiction.
Yes.
And the next thing you were mentioning was...
Well, posting it is the celebration in itself.
Okay.
Because I finally it's the first one, and that's what I want the blog to be about. But secondarily, the fact that I got someone to like it. I didn't physically get that person, but someone randomly from the WordPress blog community saw the post and liked it almost immediately.
Wow.
And for me, it's a super tiny thing,
right?
But it's a huge thing because it took me weeks to post it because I was just like, what's the point? Like I've been trepidatious about the fact no one's gonna read it. No one's gonna see my little short stories. Right. It's easy to get people to read, interviews or commentaries or opinions on stuff that they know. If I post something about Batman or the Marvel trailers, but who's gonna read my short original story?
Right.
And I was just shocked and pleasantly surprised that literally minute I posted it, within less than half an hour, someone had actually seen it and liked it. So that's the celebration point.
Okay. Yeah. That's hot. I can't even lie. I should have mentioned also that we are actually broadcasting now for Periscope.
Word. What up, Periscope?
So, I just want to mention that. Yeah. So for anybody who's watching right now, what's up? This is Live in Rock.
Yes.
So that's a good celebration. I like that. You're in a similar place with me. I think you're maybe running a little bit faster, possibly.
Oh, yeah?
But I definitely have been getting more consistent with putting work in on
Yes.
exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I actually have a whole list of goals. But one thing I will celebrate for sure
Yes.
is the fact that I'm actually working on a new song.
Yes.
And it's actually coming together fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good about it. The vibe of it is on point to what I want to communicate.
Yeah.
And I'm getting it piece by piece.
Yeah.
But it's something that I'm definitely feeling good about sharing it when it's finished.
So when you say piece by piece, like what pieces have you completed or that you're celebrating at this point? Like, have you finished writing it, producing it, just coming up with the hook? Like, where are we at? Recording any of it?
So I have been writing and producing over the last years, whatever it may be. But my big challenge has been just getting the tone of what I want to express.
Right.
Similar to what we're talking about earlier with Hamilton being a rap but a musical.
Yeah.
Kind of defying expectations.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I've been kind of going for, is I'm trying to express something very specifically different.
Yeah.
A different perspective.
Yeah.
And so if I lean too far one way or another,
Yeah.
it's not accurately expressing what I want to express.
Yeah.
So recently, just the sound, the musical production, the sounds that I'm choosing for drums and for the melody, main melody and bass lines, etc. Being able to put these sounds together to an instrumental track for a song is something that is more accurate now than it has been for quite some time.
I see what you're saying. You're kind of, it's almost like you're cracking the code. Like you're finally great. Yeah.
Yes, balancing the sound so it doesn't sound so aggressive that I have to put some gangster rap over it.
Yeah.
Or sounding so light and so poppy that no one takes it seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm finding the right sound and the right way to express what it is I'm truly trying to say.
Yeah.
And not have any distraction because of the soundtrack.
Yeah. No, I could totally relate to that. Obviously, because I used to be a recording artist too, and like if you don't have the right sound,
right,
it's frustrating because ultimately, when you get to just expressing the music, when it comes to music, the track is kind of like your canvas.
Right.
It's like the canvas for the artist,
right,
the illustrator, or the blank page for the writer, right? But if you don't have the right canvas,
right,
you can't get the story out or the message out. So I get where you're coming from.
Exactly.
Like you want to express a certain sentiment, a certain style, story. I mean, and if that vibe is not there, it's just not gonna happen. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely a celebration with that. I'm really
so again,
glad.
I don't think so. Yeah, so you did answer my question. So it's just you crack the sound code, so to speak, on one track or multiple?
Well, on one track in particular that I'm working on right now, but sort of overall, my whole approach and my whole thought process between with how I look at myself as a creator.
Yeah.
Which is part of what I wanted to roll down to, is just kind of go through some of the projects I have in mind and how my identity as an artist is being rediscovered.
Okay. That's actually what we did talk about on the last episode. This episode we're going to discuss the real priorities for CDH Live in terms of your list of what's your main projects and stuff.
I want to relate this back to you because we have a lot of discussion about what is important, what is too much on the plate, etc.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of roll this out for some perspective.
Okay.
Because a lot of us have a lot of big goals, and we just think we're gonna get to them.
Yeah.
But what I've done recently, that in a way is another celebration, is I've really broken it down to the exact projects that I want to accomplish within this year.
Okay.
and it's actually a lot. And the more that I spend time on this planning, I realize how much focus and time is going to be needed to do all of them.
Yeah.
So let me just roll out a couple of them.
Okay.
That are priorities. There's a video that I started last spring for an artist who's based in South Africa and is only here in Toronto for the summers usually.
A music video?
It's a behind the scenes video.
Okay.
So
but the artist himself, are they a musician or are they a different?
Yes, it's a singer.
Okay, but
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say her name, so that's why I'm not mentioning it.
So sort of like a behind the scenes documentary for this
right. So
artist.
it's still kind of in development because originally
cool.
it was going to be like a behind the scenes video.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of thinking maybe it might roll into like an EPK type of video.
Okay.
But in any case, that's one of the most urgent priorities just in terms of timeline when it's due. Then I have a couple of brand new songs, including the one I was mentioning earlier I want to work on. I should mention there's 12 of these. So even though this list is going on, bear with me.
Okay.
I got to finish up a website for my wife. To just bring her brand together because she's a makeup artist, she's a singer, and she creates fashion with handmade knits.
For the just to interject for a second, for the benefit of our listeners, let me just describe what's happening here. You're going through this on your computer in front of us, so I'm seeing your list as you go through it, and I've noticed here you've actually noted down in brackets an amount of hours beside each
estimated number of hours that it would take for each project.
That's interesting. I like that. That actually touches on something I want to discuss later on as well.
Right.
In terms of breaking down your balancing your time with the project. So continue. Yes.
Yeah. And oh man, I'm trying to figure out what's the best place to start. Just to reel back for a little bit for some context, is that I've had this challenge of not being able to really focus 100% of my energy on one specific craft.
Right.
So as I've mentioned earlier, I'm a poet. I'm a producer, music producer, as well as producing events.
Yeah.
And I'm a performer. That's me as an artist, as a creator.
Yes.
But I also have a production company where I do graphic design, I do music or promotional videos, and music production for others.
Okay.
Or songwriting, music production for others.
That's where these two would fall in. You working on a website for NAH,
right?
And you working on a behind the scenes documentary for that woman. That's your CDH Live Productions project.
Right. So what I'm balancing is that CDH Live Productions is my source of revenue.
Yes.
And CDH the artist is my source of passion.
Right.
Right. I should clarify, I really love the work that I do at the production company, but for personal expression, I need to continue creating as an artist.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that. I also go ahead.
No, go on.
I'm committed to doing at least one new music video this summer.
Right.
To the quality level, at least of a little step more than our Rock the World music video.
Right.
I have updates for the Live and Rock website.
Yes.
That's sort of ongoing, but there's a certain standard I want to get to with that. Some updates I got to do to my website. I have something to do with my driver's license there. Business structure. This is...
Hold on. What does your driver's license have to do with your whole creative project?
So just to let you in on this too, I guess, is that I right now have to renew my driver's license from the beginning. I've got to write the test and do the road test all over so that I have a little bit more options when it comes to traveling and getting to different types of gigs and jobs.
Okay, so this is kind of an indirect thing.
Yes, indirect.
It's not
That's
really
why I brushed over it.
Right.
But it's vital that I have to get it this year.
Yeah.
Business structure, just more back end stuff, so that I can be more efficient with my time. A certification course I'm doing for web design on a specific platform.
Okay.
And my project Conversations with Craig that we
yeah.
spent so much time
on
last episode. And then also I'm planning an event for September.
Okay.
A solo event similar to my True Experience series I did years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. This last one, Live in Rock, that's just our ongoing show. Yes.
Yeah.
But as you can see, it's a lot on my plate for the next year, and that's why it's so important for me to put things down on paper and estimate how much time is needed and how much resources are needed for each of these projects.
That brings me to another aspect of this conversation that we want to have every single episode, which is we started with celebrations.
Yes.
But we also wanted to discuss challenges we've had over the last, from the time in between episodes, right? So you mentioned how you have so much stuff here and you need to balance time and get everything on paper and whatever, so you can be able to attack everything and be effective. And that's one of the things that's what was struggling with over the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if we kind of switch gears to challenges a bit.
Yes.
One challenge that came to me was I had a specific, I'm going to give context. So the challenge is basically, how do you as an artist know the difference between stretching yourself a bit and going a little beyond your comfort zone for the sake of growth,
right?
And being able to, get better and better at your craft or expand your reach and being able to do different things, because it is necessary as an artist to do that. Right. So how do you know the difference between that and just taking on way too much stuff and not even just in terms of volume of work, but just the kind of work. So even just an opportunity presents itself to do one specific thing, but it's outside the scope of anything you've done before. How do you know whether or not you should do it, or it's just way out of the realm of anything you should even be attempting?
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm going to relate it back to you in a moment. But the reason I'm glad you brought it up is because that's where this concept of major and minor goals came from.
Okay.
Right? So before I wrote this stuff down, I still knew all of it. I still knew I wanted to do all these projects.
Yes.
But I also knew that they were all important projects.
Yes.
That I wanted to spend a fair amount of time to do them justice.
Right.
And thinking about that, it's very stressful on a creative mind, because I'm just like, oh man, should I be spending time on this right now when I know I also need to do this project?
Yeah.
And then another project will come up and I'll be like, oh man, this is like such an amazing opportunity. But then when will I have time to do these projects that I said I was going to do?
Yeah.
So this is where major and minor goals come in to play, and how they've helped me is that by putting everything down, I can see what they all are and mentally start deciding what's most important for me to get done first, what's most important to get done, period,
exactly,
and what's most urgent that either has to be done now or it's no longer going to be relevant.
Okay.
So by having it on paper, I can each week and each day I break it down to. So I start with the major and minor goal, as in what's my end goal, period.
Yeah.
And in my case, it is sustaining a living by creating inspiring entertainment.
Okay.
And I look to now, okay, out of everything on my plate, what's going to help me get to that goal?
Yes.
And that helps me make decisions on what I should focus on. What's the major thing I should focus on for this week or this day, as things might come up, you know? So if I start with a major goal for the week and say, okay, this week I want to at least get the music done for this new song. That's my focus for the whole week. That's my major.
Yes.
And then each day, that's still my major, unless something timely, like somebody calls and says, hey, I need, which this actually happened to me this week. A client called and said, hey, I need some new flyers and I need them pronto. So I was like, okay, well, based on your circumstances, I see the priority. This will only take me 1 or 2 days. So I'll put it in my list as a minor.
Okay.
Which means on any given night, I'm still going to put some time towards the major, which is the new song.
Yes.
But I might take a couple hours out for the minor because
Yes.
it has to be done in this short time frame.
Yeah. I'm glad you broke it down like that, because that's actually what we said we were going to discuss on this episode, is in a more specific way discussing the major goal, like a 6-month or 1 year major goal for a CDH Live project wise.
Right.
And I myself for Shell Rock, or I should say HS Lee, just define what our major goal is for 6 months from now or a year.
Right.
And then be able to speak to it very specifically on every episode, so our listeners can kind of take the journey with us as we make achieve minor goals along that road between now and 6 months from now, or now and a year from now, and they can experience that. So I'm glad you put it in that context or in that terminology. So I want to circle back to how much time we have left.
You tell me.
We have 15 minutes left.
Okay.
So I want to circle back to you, CDH Live, defining what that major goal is for 6 months from now for CDH Live from a project perspective. We'll circle back to that in a few minutes, and I will do the same thing I should say not even in a few minutes, at the end of the show. We'll close with that. What is our 2 major goals for the end of the year? Okay. But before we get there, we are still in the aspect of dealing with the challenge of balancing and figuring out, what is. So one way to deal with that is by setting those major minor goals, as you said, and writing them down. I like
live and rock. Creative soul for creative soul.
Most artists cannot be comfortable stuck in one box.
That's right. And that's what this podcast is about. It's not just